Greetings, everyone. I'm James Milan, and this is the DPCD update. That's our Department of Planning and Community Development. And I am speaking with Claire Ricker, the director of that department. Hello, Claire.
Hello.
That's a nice smile. That lights up our morning. Thank you very much for that.
You're welcome. I always love sharing the good news that we have at DPCD. So makes me happy.
Excellent. Good. So we've already given people a spoiler alert. Good news coming, right?
Yes.
Yes, we do have, as usual, several topics to talk about, and that includes an update on MBTA communities, excuse me, communities, and that's a big one, obviously. Then we have a Cooke's Hollow feasibility study, and among other things, you and I will find out where Cooke's Hollow is. And we want to talk about the Draft CDBG Annual Plan, but we are going to start with the specialized stretch code. Hey, only a couple of sessions of town meeting so far, and you've already scored, obviously, a victory because that was just approved. So what should viewers know about the specialized stretch code?
Oh, so my first town meeting was on Monday, my first experience with it. And boy, was it ever. I enjoyed the spectacle, the different, traditional things that get done. But
Right,
honestly,
a lot of rituals, yeah.
Yeah, all the rituals and just such again, such a cool show of community. And the fact that it's the 216th town meeting, I mean, that wasn't lost on me either. I mean, just obviously a real, tradition and way that this town does its business. And it was very, very inspiring and really interesting. I think, I'll say this now because we had a great win on Monday night in that the specialized stretch code was approved by town meeting overwhelmingly. And the specialized stretch code is basically, it's an iteration of the energy code of the building code that allows for increased energy efficiency and green building, really as part of the code, as part, as a way to, build. And so, basically what it means is that, you have your basic code and everybody needs to,
kind of like abide by that, just take care.
Yeah, abide by that. Then there's the stretch code. The stretch code is generally, the basic code, but you're applying it like 3 years earlier than when it would become, the basic code. And then on top of that is the specialized stretch code. Basically it applies to new construction and larger additions. Buildings are the highest emitter of greenhouse gases. And this was a great action, I think, for the town to take to meet our net zero goals. And I also want to say this was just a wonderful interdepartment collaboration with DPCD and Inspectional Services. Our sustainability coordinator, Talia Fox, and the director, the building commissioner, Mike Ciampa, worked together on the specialized stretch code, on doing outreach, on making sure that developers and builders were invited to information sessions, as well as the community and interested parties. And I think that this is just such a great example of how, our departments really can work together to deliver something like this, which will be hugely impactful ongoing. So I really wanted to say congratulations to them. It was a great way for me to start, get my feet wet in town meeting. But we'll see, what the future brings. But for sure, this was a real high point.
One follow-up question: the fact that it's in the code, does that mean that it's basically mandated that people kind of, if they are making additions of the sort that fit within those parameters, that they need to, kind of adopt the highest or certain level of energy efficiency in what they're doing?
That's correct. And, interestingly, before I became the director here, I was working in affordable housing. One of the last projects we did was a passive house design, which is part of, the specialized stretch code. It's a design standard to build to for all it will apply to all new development, and it will mean that all new development needs to be pre-wired for electric, no matter what fuel source the developer intends to use for the building. It certainly doesn't preclude a gas hookup or something like that, but as you build, you need to make sure your building is electric ready. As we move away from fossil fuels, and certainly I know that's a priority in this town. I think it's come up a couple times. Does this make development more expensive? Does this mean it'll be harder to build, say, affordable housing? And we had some community members get up and speak. One who is a developer of market, properties and commercial properties, and one who works developing affordable housing. And neither of them indicated that compliance with this code would be so onerous to development that it would stop it. So it's a real win. There are now 10 communities in the Commonwealth that have adopted it. Wellesley actually adopted it the night of the town meeting, our town meeting. So that was interesting. But it's great. I just really, underlines Arlington's status as just being in the forefront of this kind of, efficient design in response to, the energy crisis, frankly.
Well, as promised, good news.
Yes.
So I don't know. We'll see if we continue with that run. Let's talk about MBTA Communities.
Sure. So MBTA Communities, we closed the survey that we had, started advertising after our last public meeting on the 9th. More than 1,000 people responded to the survey, and this is excellent news. I was a little concerned. I think earlier in the month we had not as many responses as we would like to, but now we have 1,000, which is great. That's excellent data that we can start to analyze, and we are. We have a new visioning kit and some design tools to think about where exactly an overlay would go in our community. And an overlay, again, is, we're going to draw places on the map where we hope to be able to, put the zoning in, allow for multifamily housing, and allow for the conditions of MBTA communities. So we are still in the process of getting the data that will allow us to sort of draw those zones on a map in different scenarios. So working on that. We'll be back in front of the community the first week in June with some scenarios developed, by our consultant, but also, by the public as part of, this visioning kits, the meeting in a box that are available right now. If folks want to, host a meeting to go over, some of the things that we've been talking about, either with a group or friends or something like that. So those are available as well. I mean, now is really the time to get involved as we start deciding, making decisions about where exactly a zone like this would go. And again, this is something that we're looking to bring to the town in a fall town meeting. We decided to push, most of the zoning bylaw amendments to a fall town meeting. But in the meanwhile, the town of Lexington at their earlier town meeting this month passed their MBTA communities zoning, and it's interesting. I think that while I'm not exactly aware of the process that Lexington used, I think that some of the goals they were trying to achieve and the problems they were trying to solve are similar to Arlington. Kids can't move home. Seniors want to downsize and can't, find a space. But Lexington went further than just bare compliance. I mean, they really looked thoughtfully at where they thought development would make sense. Their zone preserves, their historic districts. They have roughly a dozen sections of town that they have zoned, for this multifamily. They have come up with a way to offer bonuses for a developer to build commercial on the first floor. So all of these issues that we are currently, looking at in Arlington, Lexington was looking at them too. And so they can be a good example, I think, for us as we move forward. How do we get the development that we want, under this, required action by the state? So good for Lexington. And, we'll be talking more about this obviously in the fall and looking to bring our zone, Arlington's priorities to town meeting at that point.
Well, well said. I mean, good on you, Lexington. But you know, we will put an Arlington imprint, obviously, on our own.
Absolutely.
And I have to say, you know, 1,000 responses to that survey in a town of our scale, that's significant. It's encouraging, but also it's reflective of the fact that people, you know, this is an issue, as you well know, which has galvanized public interest in town, no doubt about it.
Sure, sure.
So we will continue to, you know, just kind of check in with you regularly on this, and people, I'm sure, are
Oh,
eager to know of every new development.
absolutely.
So the time has come for us to find out where Cooks Hollow is and what the feasibility study is all about.
Sure. So this is a CPA-funded project, Community Preservation Act project, which is, you know, sort of an offshoot of town budget. We're looking to do a feasibility study at Cooks Hollow. Now, Cooks Hollow is a very small property, but lovely. I guess it would be south of the Arlington Catholic Fields and next to the police station on Mystic Street. I just learned that it is the only park in Arlington with a waterfall. And so we will be doing a feasibility study out there to see, you know, what can be done with the space, you know, and you know, what sort of like, you know, what is the past, present, and future of a park at Cooks Hollow, you know, and how can we make it more accessible, you know, more friendly, and, you know, really what are people looking to do with this, you know, very, I think, precious park that is, you know, underutilized, obviously, and perhaps not very well known. So we're going to start with an on-site meeting on the 5th, on May 5th at noon. It'll be a kickoff meeting. The consultant who is doing the feasibility study, which is Hatch, will be there. But we're also looking, while we have the kickoff meeting, to do some interactive things. We've talked about a scavenger hunt. So it should be a good time. And we do hope people think about, you know, coming out on the 5th at noon to Cooks Hollow behind the police station to look at the future of this little park.
Yeah, you know, you and I were talking just before we went on air about the fact that I didn't know where Cooks Hollow was, and you reminded me of it. And then I realized, yes, of course, I have been there. And the term parklet has already been used for
Yeah.
other, you know, for something else. But it is kind of like that. It's a tiny little pocket of a park, and it
Yeah,
is lovely. It's precious. Precious is a
it
great
is.
great adjective for that, because it
Yeah,
really is just like that, and it will be interesting to see what can come from this project.
I agree. I agree.
Okay, and finally we have the CDBG, that's Community Development Block Grants. What is the annual plan? Tell us about that.
Sure. So the comment period for the annual action plan for the town closes on May 8th. And so we really want to make sure that folks have an opportunity to respond to the plan for the funding of projects for program year 49. That's what the official year that we are in for the CDBG program in Arlington. So be sure to you know, visit the website, CDBG you know, department under the planning and development site, and make sure that if you have comments on the funded projects and on the priorities, that you get those in by the 8th.
Great. So yeah, just you know, a little over a week or so
Correct.
for folks from when we are taping this, for folks to kind of still make their views known on that. And as we've discussed before, and people I think are well aware, these community development block grants are really have a direct impact on life around us. And so obviously very important for people to be able to have their say. Great that
Yes.
that's still possible right up till May 8th. Remember that, folks. Okay, Claire, we have covered a lot of ground. We always do, from Cooks Hollow, all, you know, all the way through the rest of Arlington as well. Anything that we've missed or anything you'd like to add?
I mean, nothing at this point. I like I said, this is my first go through with town meeting, and I'll have more to talk about later.
Yeah, those are some long nights, and so we're lucky to catch you in the first week here while your energy is still up. So we
Right.
thank you as always for your time. I have been speaking, of course, for this DPCD update with the director of that department, Claire Ricker. A busy woman, as I always say, but is always the case. So we do appreciate her time, and we appreciate yours. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm James Milan. We'll see you next time.